My name's Lisa Appignanesi. I'm visiting professor in Medical Humanities at King's College London. Welcome to my exp. The classification of emotions has been with us for a very long time. The 7 deadly sins are a form of classifying the emotions, of charting what is good and what is bad and what is desirable and not desirable. Emotions are, if you think of the word itself, are aspects of feeling which lead you towards action, towards behavior, and they also are linked to our motives. So emotions in themselves can be, both good and bad at the same time. It's when they take over and there is an imbalance that things begin to go astray. So what topples you over into something which is diagnosable by doctors, and we've had doctors looking at this since certainly the 19th century and the late 18th, being enmeshed in thinking about the crazy, the mad, and classifying the kinds of emotions. What topples you over is often that you don't behave like everybody else, or your emotions, the ones that are visible, don't seem to be like those of others. Sanity itself as a definition, of course, also changes because it's very, very much linked to what the society expects. I've studied women a lot, not only because I am one, but also because, in a sense, they are the other to the dominant discourse, which is patriarchal and male. And so women become, if you like, the bearers of many of the emotional extremes. They are considered to be far more emotional than men, and too much emotion, as we know, is something which can lead you into forms of behavior which the society doesn't accept as being normal. And the society here is largely male. So, for example, women have been given categories which themselves are very, very full, are a kind of dustbin of understanding. Women have been called, since the Greeks, hysterical. The Greeks thought this was because of their wandering wombs. When that category or that explanation of so-called hysteria was discounted, other kinds of explanation came in. So the great French doctor Charcot, at the end of the 19th century, thought of hysteria as perhaps a version of epilepsy, and it was characterized by fits. And he thought of the basis of this hysteria, this enactment of too much emotion, this lability which came with bodily symptoms like paralysis or anesthesia of the body, but of which the symptoms could not be found in physical characteristics. He thought of this as being a property of the woman being degenerate in some way. And so the nervous system was degenerate, and this led to hysteria. One of our great mind doctors, and one who still influences many of the ways in which we understand emotion, is of course Sigmund Freud. And Freud's understanding, which I think is probably still usable, is that conditions which we think of as aberrant, which lead us to suffer a great deal internally or lead other people not to be able to contain us or live with us, and therefore want to see somebody else intervene in our behavior. These conditions are often the result of conflicting emotions, emotions which may be linked to our own internalization of sexual desire or of the problems that arise from that, of what the society tells us to feel is appropriate sexually or inappropriate altogether for most women at the time, because women were not considered to have desire. And there has been, this is my argument, a great medicalization of our emotions and our potential behaviors. And we have nowhere to go except to doctors. And many of these doctors take us into the ambit of the pharmacological industry. Now, this is not bad in all cases. Not all drugs are necessarily bad, but we've medicalized more and more of what humans are capable of, and indeed have given explanations which are linked to individual problems where, in fact, other kinds of solutions might be sought. So for this too muchness of classification, for example, one of the things that's often talked about is that shyness has become an illness and is something which can be treated quite often with drugs. Now, why should shyness, timidity, be considered as something which is aberrant? Isn't it part of the great spectrum of what ordinary individuals, of their many different kinds, are part of? Much of our suffering has been medicalized as well. So we live in an epoch where quite often we take our language of description from what medication can provide.